Good evening, and welcome to the Morrison County Board of Adjustment public hearing for February 17th of 2026. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started here, I got a few things we got to cover. If you haven't already done so, please sign in at the door if you have not already done so. Therefore, there you will also find a detailed handout of the step-by-step procedure we will follow tonight. If you wish to take one, please put any electronic devices on silent mode at this time. Also, please note that all this testimony is being recorded for the record. Members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts. Land Services staff is here to assist the Board of Adjustment with its duties. The task of the Board of Adjustment is to consider requests for variances and appeals from an order, requirement, or decision made by a county zoning official in accordance with state law and county ordinance. Each request is considered on its own merit. The burden of proof of a practical difficulty rests with the applicant. If a variance is granted, it is granted to the land, not the landowner. There is a protocol for how we will proceed tonight. For each variance request on the agenda, we will hear a staff report, hear testimony from the applicants, and then the board will discuss and gather more information as needed. Next, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request. I will ask each party to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. Please be as factual as possible and direct all statements and questions to me. After all testimony is complete, I will close the public hearing portion of the process. The board will then review and discuss the case in terms of our findings of fact criteria as required by Minnesota statute and county ordinance. We will have a series of votes, discuss whether conditions be made, and have a final motion to approve or deny the request based on those findings. After this final vote on your request, you may leave if you wish. So, for our agenda tonight, we have 2 applications. The first one being Donald and Deborah Hayes at 36305 203rd Street, Hillman, Minnesota. If you guys want to come forward, please, and sit by the microphones here and give us your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Don Hayes, 36305 203rd Street, Hillman.
And Debbie Hayes, same address, or do you want me to state it? It's okay. Okay.
Sounds good, thank you. Amy, staff report.
Mr. Chair, this is a variance request to separate the swine operation from the feedlot residence and small farm within setback to the side property line and setback from the non-feedlot residence. The ordinance sections that apply is 1209.1. And then here's an aerial photograph of the property, and that's outlined in yellow and blue. And then here is another aerial photograph with the survey lines showing the setbacks that the barn has from the property line and then from that feedlot residence. And here are some site photos taken at the viewing. This is a registered Tier 3 feedlot, and the farm is currently on 2 parcels. The applicant proposes selling the swine barn on the east parcel. The feedlot registration would then transfer to the swine barn. The animal units on the west parcel are under the feedlot registration threshold. The current owner's home on the west parcel would then become a non-feedlot residence, and so 2 variances are requested. The first is to continue a Tier 3 swine feedlot within setback to a non-feedlot residence. 1,320 foot setback is required. The residence is 1,283 feet, which is a 37 foot encroachment. And then the second variance is to continue a Tier 3 swine feedlot within setback to the west side property line. A 200-foot setback is required, and the barn is 158 feet, which is a 42-foot encroachment. 2 comments were received, and I'll read those. This one was received by our feedlot officer. They stated that they live approximately 1 mile north of the swine barn. The property owner stated that the odor from this barn is unpleasant on days with a south wind. The property owner stated that the odor is nearly unbearable when they are pumping the manure pit and or applying it due to the haze only applying the manure to the surface of the ground. The property owner stated that if this variance is granted, he would surely hope the new barn owner would do better at managing how the manure is applied and cared for, as the odor at this facility has been an issue for quite some time. The property owner would like to see the new potential owner of the swine barn have the manure either injected or incorporated immediately. And then the second one was a phone call from Jim Hayes, and he's questioning why now. There are rules for a reason, too many complaints on this barn already. And so those are the public comments that were received prior to the hearing. And then, Mr. Chair, the applicant also submitted some additional things that were forwarded to you on Friday. And so I just want to note that for the record that we did receive those, and those have been distributed to you. And that is my staff report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Amy. So does that all sound accurate and stuff, Don and Debbie?
Last fall, the manure was, or last spring, the manure was,
Speaking to the mic a little bit more.
okay.
Don.
Last spring, the manure was injected directly into the ground, so a couple of these people, it's a personal grudge, just so you're aware, and,
Yeah, we still had complaints, and it was drag lined and injected. There was no hauling.
otherwise, I guess, I just feel that, some of these complainers shouldn't be so selfish and realize who's putting food on their table. And the odors are minimal. Yes, anytime you move manure, it smells when you handle it. I'm pretty sure my brother is the Jim Hayes, and he and I can't stand each other. So this is going to be a never-ending complainer. That's really all I got for you. Just being upfront.
Just one question, Amy, who was the first letter from?
She didn't make note of who it
I could
was.
it was probably a Finley to the north.
I don't-
He's
okay.
been running around trying to get petitions from people, and a couple of my neighbors have run him off. The one even filed a trespassing with the law enforcement on this one, so.
Yeah, we don't
He moved
know. I
up
was
from
just
the-
curious. I thought you said something about the feedlot office.
The feedlot officer took the call.
Okay, so
but
but
she
just
didn't-
didn't get a name.
correct.
Okay, yep,
That
that's fine.
that would be a Finley. He's to the north of us and 100%
So-
city boy, so.
Also, like, I mean, we did send in these things. We have been working with the MPCA. We have, we did say when we, like, from the very beginning, we've always just had hay ground. So, I mean, that's what we had. I mean, we don't do corn. So I'm not sure how, like, I mean, basically they're telling us we can't use our own manure, so. I mean, we've tried, we are trying, we've worked with the MPCA, we're gonna plant trees, we have found that, like, if we do spread on hay ground, if we run an aerator over it right away, just kinda watch the wind, I mean, there are things, but, I mean, obviously the barn is going to be sold, so the new owners
That's
would
their-
then choose who they want spreading manure, and if they don't want the complaints and don't want us to spread the manure on our land, then they would just need to find somebody else to take said manure, but.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Amy, go ahead.
So, this is a variance request for separating the barn, so
Sure.
so that's gonna be the focus of this one. However, I think it's important, and are you the new owner? It's important for the new owner to understand that there is an existing conditional use permit, and they are expected to abide by the good neighbor plan that you submitted. the stormwater management plan that you submitted, the
Right.
odor minimization plan that you submitted. So I just want to make that clear that this new owner is going to be
Yep.
beholden to the conditional use permit that's already granted. And I encourage them to connect with the county feedlot officer to understand what those things are and what the history has been. But for the purposes of this meeting, there isn't an ability to reopen that conditional use permit, place additional conditions regarding that. You would have to have a direct nexus to the impact of encroaching on that side property line and encroaching on a non-feedlot residence if you're to consider any sort of conditions tonight. So I just wanted to plant that while you're considering this request.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So anything else of importance on, okay, the setbacks and stuff? I'll open it up to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Clint?
if it's so allowed, I would ask that you would ask the new owners or proposed new owners to come sit up front in case there's some questions that way.
Could you, new owners, please come up front and state your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Katie Meyer, 27864 233rd Street, Piers.
And I'm Kyle Meyer, same address.
Thank you. So board, I'll open it up to you here for a minute. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Marv, go ahead.
first, what year was that barn built?
2021, is that,
So it's only 5 years old then?
well, it's 2021 or 22?
Going on 5.
So around 5 years, so.
Sorry, I know.
Okay, so one of our criteria questions, number 5, is, is the variance created by action other than you or prior landowners? And here, the need for this variance, why is it created? And the placement of the barn, being it was done, it would be you. And then trying to answer
Absolutely.
this question is going to be kind of difficult that way. So I'm trying to come up with something here and see how we can go around this.
Thanks, Marv. Anybody else?
Okay, well, I'll ask, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Clint.
So I'll ask, we have the new, don't have a lot of bearing on this, but for the public it does, I guess. So I'll just be for the proposed new owners. So there's some concerns about manure and stuff. Can you maybe just talk about what practices you do now in your operation you currently have and what your plans would be for this new endeavor on how you handle the manure?
Right now, we pump our pit where we currently own twice a year, and it gets drag lined and knifed in up to, I think, 3 mile radius. That's how many miles of hose they have. And I guess we just never really had to run in with anyone that was upset with it. And so it was all fairly simple. And the current buyer for our manure now did propose to purchase the manure at this next site as well, to get drag lined elsewhere and knifed in.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
may I ask a clarifying question?
Yes, go ahead.
So the whomever's purchasing your manure, that would be trucked off and it wouldn't be applied anywhere around where this barn is? Is that the understanding?
Correct, it'd be either trucked or pumped through a drag line
Got it.
hose. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Okay, except for possibly whatever the Hazes would use on their farm.
Right, yep.
Okay. Okay. I didn't really have a lot of questions. One of the things I look at is now, I know going along to what Marv was saying about that question 5, when I look at this application, it meets all the setbacks. Now we're gonna wanna split it. It's short by 37 feet. Let's see, let me make sure I'm right. side property, 37 feet short of meeting 1320. And it's 42 feet short of meeting the side property line. So when I look at that and I look at the overall reasoning why we have 1,320 feet, why we have this, why we have all that, it's to protect from less complaints, things like that, all that, okay? When that number was made, you know, I don't know if 1,320 is a number that somebody come up with in the state or whatever it is, it's a number, right? Okay, and that's what our ordinance is. And when I look at it and I look at 37 feet short, I don't think that goes against ordinance. It's close, you know, it's a number. It's in that area where there isn't a lot of houses. Now, if there's a lot of houses, it's totally different the way I look at it. The 42-foot encroachment on the property line, yes, it's created because of where the Hayes put the barn originally, but I'm sure when they built the barn, they put it a long ways away. It's off a few feet from meeting its setback. Probably didn't have any plans at that time of splitting it off. Things change in farming operations as you get older and you got to time out or whatever. I know that you guys talked at the site visit about planting trees. That's going to basically take up the 42 foot that you're short. It's still legally in a description. It's still not right. But I think that helps in my mind when I look at that. It's just 5 years ago. I don't even remember. Maybe Amy can answer that. Was that about 5 years? Maybe a little longer when we went through all them ordinances. Did we always have a 200-foot setback?
For a tier 3, yes.
Okay. But whatever, I mean, it's oversights. We're really close here. I think if there was houses, well, the barn would have never got put in if there was so many more houses. I think the next nearest residence, 1,389 feet, so that more than meets it. It's a operation, so really what we're looking at is the feet, the distances that they can't meet. If it's practical, reasonable, whatever our thoughts are. It's an operation that's already going. It was approved. It was an operation that's been going for 5-6 years already, so we don't have to like dredge that all up. It's nice to hear from the proposed new owner how they do it or answer some of the questions. So when I look through our comprehensive plan, if we look through the goals and objectives, we look through the agricultural part. If you read through that, this here still, I believe, even being short on the distances and what they're asking for encroachments, I totally believe that they're still hitting all them goals and objectives. And then when we get through, I'll just read the last two that I looked at, like Goal A2, achieve an appropriate balance between the continued and growing desire of people in certain businesses to locate in rural settings and the need to accommodate agriculture and other rural lands use in this area. And then also understand the positive and negative impacts of emerging agricultural practices and uses of agricultural products for lands. So when I look at them two, the last one, nothing's changing other than ownership, okay? Now we look at Goal 2, to a balance between the people that live out there and other businesses, things like that. Really nothing's changing either. They meet all the setbacks to that. So when we look at all that and then we look down through the groundwater, surface water, and the land use development, it meets all them. It's already an operation that's moving. So now we just got to decide if it's reasonable when they split this land, if them distances are. And then we also got to remember that the 37 feet that we're short on goes to another feedlot. We have no setbacks from feedlot to feedlot, but we have from feedlot to a residence. But we got to also take into consideration it's a residence to a feedlot. It's not a residence that's just out in the country. So that's just some of my thoughts on where I'm coming at when I try to work through some of these questions like Marv brought up, where it's hard maybe for question 5 because it is kind of from the landowner. So that's just how I look at it. So that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clint. Anybody else?
Go ahead, John, if you need.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, same, on the same lines with Clint here. So when you're talking about other than the landowner or prior landowners, if you can't run the farm that way until whatever age you get to, I mean, somebody has to take it over, and if it's not the kids, it's got to be somebody to purchase it. And the fact that it's your residence that you're infringing upon as far as the variance goes, I mean, it's about as reasonable as one could possibly get. So I'm with you, Clint, on this. On the whole, there's not a lot of other options unless the kids are going to do it, and at that point, it's a completely different structure and setup. So that's, I guess, the one comment I had, Marv, when you referenced the actions other than the landowner or prior landowners. They could skirt all of the different rules and set up an entirely different agreement with however they wanted to operate. If this didn't go the way they needed it to, there's plenty of other ways to partner up and run contracts, LLC to LLC, to take care of it anyway. They're just trying to do it the right way. So, that's what we appreciate.
Thanks, John. Marv?
Mr. Chair, so I do agree that the trees putting in to mitigate from the homestead. But, the 42 feet on the property line, if anything changed, I don't know if that mitigates it. And that's why I brought that up the other day about, well, it might be a little bit of pain to have it surveyed moving that. But I got to answer this the way I feel on that is the need for this variance. But sometimes when you mitigate things by planting your trees, that helps matters. But so that's how I feel about that.
Thanks, Marv. So I had one question. So the trees that you're going to plant, I know you said that you were going to plant them last year, but they ran out of trees. So they're going to be on your side of the property line, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We would
Okay,
do
thank you for that. And then also, I did look at what Colette sent us, the feedlot officer, and some of those things were best management practice awards and discussing, ways to, control odor and keep the odor down. So we thank you for that, and it shows that you guys are doing your due diligence, and hopefully the new owner will do the same. And it sounds like he's pretty familiar with raising hogs, so I think that will be a plus for him. I guess at this point, if there's nothing else, I will open this up to the public. Again, I ask you, go to the podium, get your name and address, be as factual as possible, and I'll ask 3 times. Any comment? Any comment on this application? Any comment on this application? Seeing and hearing none, take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by John, second by Clint. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. So the public hearing's been closed. Any other comments, gentlemen? I guess we'll move on to the findings of fact and criteria questions. Number 1, is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Marv?
I believe it's in harmony with the general purposes. It's ag property being used for ag. It'll be, and it will continue to be operating that way, and it meets most of the setbacks here, other than, that's why they're asking for this variance. So on the most part, it is in alignment of that.
Anybody else?
I'll just add that what I stated earlier and what I talked about is when we look at our ordinance and what the purpose is, it's kind of to keep good standing with the farms and then also the residents that live there. I think the setbacks that are put in place are the adequate ones that the county came up with. I think deviating the feet that we're looking at in this situation, I think it's still in harmony because I think they're still protecting the resident to farm distances, even though it's not concrete what the ordinance says. I don't think the ordinance was meant to deter something like this, so that's why I would say yes to question 1.
Thank you, Clint. Anybody else? Question 2. Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? I'll take that one. The surrounding property is mostly cropland, wetland, and scattered residences. The 37-foot encroachment on the non-feedlot resident and the 42 encroachment on the side property line with the addition of a tree buffer makes this a reasonable request. Anybody else? Question 3, will the issuance of a variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Clint?
Yes, we got a operation that's already been operating for roughly 5 years. Nothing's gonna change as far as, taking away the essential character because it's just a property line. And then also just a little change because of the ownership that it, affects the current owners right now. It's a little bit closer, but as far as aesthetics or anybody impeding anybody else in the area, nothing's changing. They would never know the difference. If they didn't know about this public hearing or the new purchase of it, they would never know anything changed. So I would have to say yes to question 3.
Thank you, Clint. Anybody else? Question 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? John?
I would say yes, unless you're going to pick the house up directly or the barn up directly and move it, which is impossible. There's no way to split the land any other way that doesn't keep that barn that close to the house. And honestly, as close as it is and as far off as we are on the 200, it's more than reasonable. But that's, in my opinion, what makes it unique.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Question number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Marv?
Well, as I stated earlier, I believe the need for this variance is created by the landowners when they placed the barn where, they didn't do their due diligence and look at all the setbacks needed. But, I mean, the other part is with them planting trees and putting a buffer does mitigate some of that. So that does help with matters. But I, on the most part, I believe that this has been created by the landowners right now.
Thanks, Marv. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can maybe add or agree with a little bit of what Marv said, but also I look at the other part that it's created by unthought of circumstances. I'm sure when the barn was put in, they didn't think this would ever happen. Times change, things like that. I think to hit a barn that meets that close to the proper setbacks, I think without any planning, I mean, yeah, it's up to the landowners to know these things, but I don't think I farm. If I put it at the distance you did, I would have never thought of that ahead of time. Because maybe my kids would take it over, now they're not taking it over, things like that. So I think it's due more to just unforeseen circumstances.
Thanks, Clint. And I guess I would add one comment to that. I think what we're looking at here, I think we're going to see a lot more of these is generational change. Don, you're probably ready to hang up farming and you found somebody young to take it over. And that's a tall order nowadays. There's just not many young people willing to take on the farm life. So I think that is part of it too. That created the need.
Mr. Chair, I would agree with both of you. I don't think nobody's putting up sheds, barns these days and saying, well, 30 years from now when I wonder if this is going to hit my property set. I mean, it's impossible to do that, planning around an entire property like that when you're already running a full operation. Like it doesn't exist.
Thank you, John. Anything else? Question 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? I will take that one. Economic considerations are always a part of any ag operation. I think the ability to find a buyer for this portion of the applicant's farming operation is the main driver and the need for this variance. And so it is more than economics in play on this application. Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. Question 1. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and the Comprehensive Plan? Marv?
Yes.
I, George, is yes. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Question 2. Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Land Use Ordinance? I, George, is yes. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Question 3, will the issuance of a variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
I, George, is yes. Question 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
I, George, is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Question 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Marv?
No.
I, George, is yes. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Question 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? I, George, is yes. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Pulling all the questions, they're all answered in the affirmative. I would entertain a motion and a second to approve this variance.
So moved.
Motion by John, second.
I'll second that.
Second by Clint. Any other discussion? There's one thing about were we gonna condition the trees?
No, because that's,
They already volunteered it?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I don't believe you can't put a condition on them.
No, new owner.
Yep, it's,
Okay,
so the thing
gotcha.
is it's not on their, not going to be on their property.
Yep,
The barn, they're not proposing to put trees on the piece of property that you're assigning the variance to.
And then, Mr. Chair, just one clarification. So Amy, this variance goes through, there's no need for a condition for encroachment because that's just part of the ordinance or the rules already, right? That if they ever add on each one, that they don't encroach on each, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, that, the ordinance
Yep,
takes care
okay,
of.
all right.
okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All's in favor? John?
Aye.
Marv?
I'm going to have to say aye, even though I was against one, but I don't disagree with the rest of the board members here.
Thanks, Marv. Clint?
aye.
Aye, George is yes, or aye. So your variance has been approved. I think that's all we got there, huh? You're good to go.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep, say, make sure you guys work with land services on any questions you have, and especially on the conditional use permit and stuff.
Nailed it.
Make sure you,
I didn't know how you were gonna do that. And I'm glad you did it first. Yeah, no, I get it.
that's why you gotta sit here. I didn't know that.
One thing, when you get an out, it's like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense, 'cause everybody else is- It's reasonable.
I disagree.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Try to be reasonable.
Okay, the next one is Bradley and Joycelyn Lindgren. If you guys want to come up here and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Brad Lindgren, 35518 Hoffman Beach Drive.
Joyce Lindgren, same address.
Thank you. Amy, staff report when you're ready.
You bet. Mr. Chair, this is an after-the-fact variance request to continue the expansion of a non-conforming structure within setback to the lake, side property line, and road right-of-way. The ordinance section that applies is 706.1 and 706.1B. Here's an aerial photograph of the property outlined in blue. And then here are some images of the property from the lake. And then here's a site drawing provided by the applicant. And then also a site drawing provided by the applicant. And then these are house plans that were provided in the previous application. And then here are current photos from the site viewing last Friday. And then these were taken at the site viewing for the previous meeting back in December. The property is in Section 6 of Richardson Township on Platte Lake, and the property is a non-conforming single lot size within the first addition to Hoffman Beach subdivision which was established in 1955. According to the assessor's records, the original dwelling was 24 by 30 single story with no basement and a detached 22 by 28 garage. And those were built in 1965, and that home is 50 feet from the lake. And then a 21 by 14 and a 10 by 14 1/4 story addition with no basement was constructed in 1979, which attached the garage to the dwelling, and that's what you see there. So it is acknowledged by Land Services that there is a basement area beneath the original home, and that houses the utilities. However, the assessor does not pick that up because it's not deep or large enough to value. And the applicant's site drawing, though, does show that there is a dirt crawl space with utilities beneath the 24 by 30 cabin. And then here is the site drawing that was provided in the previous request, kind of showing the original conditions and then also the proposed conditions. So in October of 2023, the Board of Adjustment approved a variance to place a new 28 by 28 attached garage and a 10 by 14 entryway onto the south or the road side of the existing home. The applicant stated within their application that the existing attached garage was intended to be converted into additional living space, and a bonus room was planned above the new garage. Within the October 2023 variance application, the applicant did discuss limitations of the expansion, including the inability to build downward due to lake separation and the need for a new interior stairway from the proposed entryway to access the utility room safely. And then here are some excerpts from the original variance application provided by the applicant. So the resulting land use permit for that, after that was granted, authorized the 28 by 28 attached garage addition and the 10 by 14 entryway addition onto the existing home. It included a basement area beneath the entryway to accommodate the stairway. The applicant at that time chose not to relocate the septic system to the utility lot they own across the street. Instead, we're planning for a type 3 system on the lake side of the property. So while staff was on site to conduct a field check on a deck replacement, they noticed that the construction on the home didn't appear to match the variance or permit that had been granted. After taking a look at the building plans that were later submitted by the applicant, the following was confirmed: that new construction in place of the existing attached garage, including a basement and second level, and new construction in place of the 1979 portion of the existing home with basement and expanded sidewalls, and a new roof resulting in more volume and height. So this is kind of the before and after. And then also from the lake side, the before and after. So back in October 2023, staff concluded that the variance that was granted in October 2023 was voided with the removal of the original structure, as that was not identified within the scope of the request, and that other expansions had taken place that were not authorized by the variance. And so a first notice of violation was issued at that time. The applicant did apply for an after-the-fact variance, and that was heard in December of 2025, and that request was denied. So now today, the applicant has updated their request with a modification to the dormer and is requesting a variance to expand a non-conforming dwelling by completing the construction of that 1,273 square foot dwelling addition with a full basement and second level, and a 784 square foot attached garage with a second level with the modifications to the dormer that you saw in that drawing, and I can go back to that. The additions don't further encroach on the 50-foot setback from the lake, and the survey done as part of this request shows that the structure is 3 feet 7 inches from the road right-of-way and 4 feet from the west side property line. And so here's the survey that was provided for the December variance. The applicant does plan to install a new septic drain field, and they are going to put that on their utility lot across the street. The tank will remain on the lakeside, but then the drain field will go across the street. And then, since this is a platted property and roadway, the platted road is dedicated to the public. In the past, the township did not recognize this and had given inconsistent right-of-way claims. To be sure all development is completely on an owner's property, the county does take that setback from the platted property line that abuts the platted road. The township continues to explore vacating a portion of the dedicated road, but that has not been completed yet. The overall height of the structure is 23.5 feet, and the basement does meet the FEMA floodplain elevation requirement. Here is the letter that was submitted from the township back in December of 2025 from the township, recognizing that the home does encroach on the setback and that they're okay with that. And then here are criteria questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Amy. Brad and Joyce, does that all sound accurate?
Yeah, and I believe we're all well versed on what got us here today, so.
Okay. Okay, so is there anything else you need to add? I mean, it covers it all?
All the past stuff, yes.
Okay. So just for the record, John, Marv, Clint, and I visited on Friday, the, 13th. Should know that. We visited on Friday the 13th, so I don't know if that's good luck or bad luck. So anything you guys want to add?
Just to bring you up to speed, give me 3-4 minutes, and
Yep.
just so we're all clear. At the last meeting, obviously, we kind of we were divided on how to move forward, and that variance didn't go through. We were tasked to meet with land services, and we did that right away. Everybody was saying, work it out with land services, work it out with land services, work it out with land services. We decided that our answers are gonna be, yes, what can we do to make this happen? How can we bring it over the top? How can we make this move forward? And what all can we do to facilitate making this happen? We met with Amy and Darren shortly after the holidays. We had to discuss how to move forward and what areas to address. They had a couple of ideas on the building wise for reconfiguring the structure and what would be the best way to move forward there. And before we got into the building aspect of it, we went to the land, and they said, what else better can we do on the land? How can we, it's a tight spot, we get that. What can we do better? And Darren brought up the idea of the rain garden with the sewer or the drain field that's already there. And we said, yeah, let's go ahead and do that, even though we might not need to now with the sewer and stuff, but if it helps impervious, we'll do that. So that with the rain garden, we did that. And Gary Hoffman is one that's gonna be doing the sewer and stuff. He provided the sketch of that in your packets. Again, Amy, we brought that up. I didn't know if it was gonna be or not, but the drain field across the street, we talked about a little bit that at the last meeting. We'll do that again, make sure that gets going over there, and we'll facilitate that happening. After our meeting about the land portion of it, and we went back home, we said, what more can we do on impervious surfaces, impervious surfaces, impervious surfaces? Those pavers that we had going over to our mom and dad's house, there's not a need for them anymore, so we'll take them and take those out. We measured them, they're about 80 or 90 some square feet. That walks over there with the cement, we'll take them out and make that all land again. We've done all the other stuff on the original variance as far as moving the hot tub patio, and then the 2 sheds that are still there, we'll still get them out and move them out and make that green area as well. The deck, we applied for a deck permit that was brought up in the planning prior stuff, and that stopped. But in talking with Darren and what we're still working forward to is jogging that deck's got a jog in there, and we'll take that jog out and not use that allotted space that we have to build the deck. We went back and measured it. Some of it's still under snow and stuff because we haven't done anything in there since October, but it's about 35 to 40 square feet that we'll remove and not have there. So we're going to shorten up, skinny up the deck. Let's see. We're still working with the township, I told you that. And we're not letting that one go. My neighbors are talking to us daily on what the process is and how it's working. And by hook or by crook and by one way or the other, something's gonna happen with getting this settled, whether it's individual property owners or all of us or whatever, there's gonna be a plan. We've got Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, working with the township board to address these issues. And then if that was addressed, where they do vacate from the edge of the road, for everybody's past history, from the edge of the road to the beginning of our garage is 31 feet down. Then finally, meeting with Amy and Darren, they had two color photos of what we could do to address the building. And we focused in on the portion we showed you last week and the south side of the eastern dormer, deconstruction and reconstruction process there. And in that meeting, it was suggested that we meet with our contractor and just to say what we can do there. How can we address this and how can we fix this? So we met with the contract and then shook hands and let's go, and we'll come back with a yes answer and an attitude we can do this. So in talking to the contractor, he's saying, and that's also in the packet as well, that in that area that we're looking at, that's up there now, that on the second story, is we can take out approximately 8 feet by 8 feet in that section there. And after we remove that from that current dormer, what we would do is just leave the roof on there and make that kind of an above ground deck area or whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't affect make any more impervious surface. The measurements are approximately 8 by 8. It could be 7.5 by 8.4, so it's approximately 64 feet. It could be 60, it could be 70. But what's going to determine that, obviously, is how the foundation below will support the structures up above. And, on the one end, it says, maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, 64 square feet, 8 by 8, but I guess a bedroom's 8 by 10, a standard bedroom. So when you look at it in that perspective, that's a pretty good area. Yeah. She told me to be quiet, so I'm shutting up. No, I'm good.
So you got it for now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll open it up to the board members.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Marv.
Well, first I was going to ask about the township road, but that's a work in progress there. I think we can kind of get a gray view of it, let's call it. Something that I was trying to look for numbers as impervious surface, and they dropped them down a little bit more. So after this is all said and done, if they remove the pavers, and where are we going to be at for percentage-wise is impervious surface?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
So they're not over an impervious surface now, and so it wasn't something I highlighted, because they have the two lots.
Yes.
They're fine. If you look just at that, if you just were using the square footage of the lot on the lakeside, they'd be way over. But I don't believe the surveyor calculated it because we knew they'd be using, but let me look here. I'll look on give me just a second to pull I think it's on the survey. I just have to.
And why I'm asking this here, as you heard, as a previous variance that we approved, that they planted trees, they did things to mitigate, and what you can do to mitigate some of the errors, let's call it, in the past. And everybody makes mistakes, and we move on from that. So, and you're trying to do things to mitigate from it, and I wanted to bring that forward in front and center, get an idea where we're at.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
So yes, on the survey, the existing square, or the existing impervious surface is just on the lakeside is 31.8%. And if you then back off, I'll just do a calculation here. So I'm gonna use 90 square feet. Let's see, 90 square feet and 64 square feet and 40 square feet. That is reduction of the pavers between the house, the reduced deck size, and actually the 64 square feet doesn't matter because it's not impervious. So if I take that, so I'm gonna take 90 plus 40. So that's a reduction of 130 square feet. So we're one minus, how much was that?
130.
130? Yep. Okay, so that's 4111 divided by,
4211, 4241.
well, that's the, no,
13,337.
yeah, 13, thank you. That brings it down to 30.8.
Okay, that helps. Thank you for clarifying that. And
Mr. Chair, oh, sorry.
And as we continue on looking at that, if you take the lot across, and it brings it way under. But, I am just making some comments and stuff here. What you're doing to mitigate is, I don't believe we have to put a condition with the rain garden and the septic across because they agreed to do that. Am I correct by that, Amy?
Well, if it's not conditioned, they can change their mind and not
Okay.
do it.
So then that needs to be as a condition on there, okay. And so another thing, as that, I would like also, in which I believe they submitted before, a storm water plan that is approved by land services. So if they do anything, just, and that Darren or whoever come, and it's approved by it, because and this is, I think we all know what got where we're at now. It was a lack of communication between land services, you and a contractor, and something we look at, we so often seen in the past, contractors convincing landowners to do projects, and don't worry, it'll be okay. They're selling their product. So I believe with this new contractor training and licensing should stop most of this happening in the near future. But, and you're doing some of these things to mitigate from that. I don't like how we got here. I don't think you like
Nobody
it.
does.
Nobody else likes it.
Nope.
So how do we cross that bridge and have nobody else have to deal with what you're doing in the county? So just, but that's all I have at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Marv. John?
Miss Amy, can you pull this up, this one? Okay, you guys got a TV right here, right? So the deck jogs out, you're skinnying that up. Condition 1. Pavers are out, condition 2. Shed, extra shed are out, condition 3. Rain garden, right there. Are there dimensions on the rain garden?
I
Is,
didn't
is,
see that
did you
in,
just do this one?
yeah, I just.
Gary's got
in-
that submitted as a sketch. There's an independent sketch in there of the rain garden.
Okay.
I didn't see what. he-
Approximately to scale of the drawing, we'll say. And then the 5th one is new drain field across the road.
Yes.
And y'all are good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Clint?
So if we remember right, last time, I think I voted for this, but I know the concerns of the board. So I'm gonna ask, Bradley, why do you think that it failed last time?
we were close. Well, there was a number of things. I think it was the basement. I know we talked about basement, and me and Amy and Amy and Darren had that meeting, the basement. It was this area too, where that kind of floated to the top of, let's address that area. And just how it ended up where it is today.
Okay. So I think it was that, consensus was it was just overbuilt from what the variance was, okay?
Yep.
So now the difference in this one versus last time is basically you're doing some better things for the land, okay? You're agreeing to that. And then also that, you're basically just taking living space out,
Yes.
okay? It's still the same size, it's still the same aesthetics, all that, from what my opinion is. So do you feel that's enough to change the minds of the board that you downsized enough? That's, guess what my question is.
Well, my hope is yes, and to really drive that point home was the two avenues we could have pursued. Land Services felt like this one that we're pursuing here was the number one that was brought up at the board meeting. Because we talked about the basement, we talked about all the other issues at that time. So I don't know what more we could do. And we bring it back to, so Darren was point after our original meeting. Gary Hoffman sat in with that meeting with us just to confirm he can do the sewer and work that stuff out there. We returned it within that week after the meeting with the contractor that we said we would do, and bring that back to Land Services. And, no, to Darren, I'm sorry. And then said, if there's anything wrong with this, call us. And we explained what everything was. And then when we came in for our variance request, Amy was there for the variance request, the receipt that, and like typical Amy running from meeting to meeting, didn't have time. And I believe our answer to you was, anything you need whatsoever, we'll do it. Give us a call. Let's get this on the agenda. Let's keep on moving this forward. We're willing to do whatever needs to be done to address what everybody that you told us to talk to thought we should do and how we should do it. And I don't think we disagreed on or said no to anything. And we came up with the impervious stuff to help.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
I can certainly recap. Yes, we did meet with the Lindgrens afterwards, and really the conversation was about taking the comments that we heard from the Board of Adjustment and modifying this and taking those into consideration. And so both Darren and I said, there needs to be an attempt to get this back to what had originally been approved. And so we weren't concentrating on the basement so much. We were concentrating on these dormers, on this dormer especially, because that was kind of like the overbuild of that. So our advice to the Lindgrens was to chat with their contractor to see what could be done with this dormer and that height on that lake side to get that back down to what, what was kind of originally authorized within the original variance. And so then the request then, of course, was modified to this, which essentially notches some living space out of that. We did push the Lindgrens. We said, is this it? Is this all you can do? This isn't a lot. And so we were very frank and honest with them, say, I don't know if this is enough. But the feedback they got from their contractor was, yes, this is it. This is all we can do because of the way this dormer was built and because of a load-bearing wall that goes all the way to the basement, is my understanding. So that's where we're at.
Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Amy. John, go ahead.
So on the original variance, the actual footprint of what was approved on the first one
Yes.
is still the same.
Yes.
So we're still under the height requirements for what is allowed on the lake from the house perspective. Because we didn't put height restrictions on the first variance that we approved, right? We didn't say, hey, don't exceed
No,
23 and a half feet.
no.
So the footprint got passed. The basement, the assessor found no value in. Hence, he didn't include it in his appraisal, I believe is how that's worded in here.
We don't value a small dirt basement.
Or
for
value it,
utilities.
okay. And then, what Clint mentioned too about the 8x8 living space, I mean, the roof's over it, I don't know, it doesn't really do anything for me. When I, moving the drainage across the field, removing the pavers, the shed, getting what appears to be like a very large rain garden is obviously gonna help, but, and I voted for this yes both times. And my position, because this hasn't changed too much, outside of the basement stuff was new for me, my position on this hasn't changed either.
Mr. Chair, I want to
Go ahead.
clarify, what's new about the basement?
I guess I didn't know the assessor had no value or didn't appraise it because it wasn't enough because that was a big thing, like you put a basement in on the last conversation.
Yep. I want to make sure we're very clear.
Yes.
So in the original, there's always been that small basement underneath the original structure.
Right.
And, but the basement that you toured
Yep.
is all new. That's in addition to
Correct.
what was there. So I wanted to so it's not like all of that was existing.
That's how I read it.
Okay, no. So I just want to make sure we're all clear.
I know what part was new, just the information, the way it came through in the packet this time, the way it read, it looked like the new basement that they put in wasn't appraised because it had no value.
No, it was kind of leading you through chronologically for that.
Okay.
But
That makes more
the
sense.
appraiser will absolutely pick up
Gotcha.
that, yes.
Okay. And which, obviously, if you're gonna put in a structure that goes that high, you gotta have something that goes down to obviously have a foundation. So I guess when we were going through this, we approved the footprint. If the height was an issue, we should have addressed it in the first or the second variance. In my opinion, it never was. We didn't say, nope, because I think lake heights are 30, right?
Correct.
In Morrison, they're at 23 and a half. Yeah, definitely outside of what you guys said you were going to do. But again, going back on what was said on the first variance, this is again from my perspective, not everybody else's. I don't know that the county gains anything by saying absolutely go back and change that. And I don't know that you guys gain anything by doing that. Again, I go back to what's the footprint? What are the height restrictions? Where are we currently at today? Thanks for putting the extra stuff in and taking the pavers and the shed and all that other stuff out. Great job. And the fact that you were willing to work with land services at the extent you did, thank you for doing that.
You.
That's it.
Thanks, John. So I guess I got some, comments here. So I think Brad, for me, Brad and Joyce, the problem was with this whole thing is the sheer volume of the house and compared to what was approved on that first variance. And I was not a part of that first variance. And I did go and view the video on YouTube. And, I guess as I watched that, I thought, well, that is kind of the upper limit for what that lot can handle. And of course, so that's where I'm at. We ended up with a basement under the whole thing where there was only supposed to be a basement under the 10 by 14 entryway. We ended up with a second story where the old garage was, and we ended up, and I understand why all this happened. we ended up with tearing down part of the original house because of mold. And of course, the sidewalls got changed, the roof angle got changed. So that's where I'm having a problem with this, is the sheer volume of the structure. I mean, that's a big house. And that's where my problem is. And then on the practical difficulty part of this application, I know they use, the access to the utility room, and so the access to the utility room could have been achieved without building this big house. I mean, I just can't see how that would justify building what was built on this lot. And it's a small lot, it's non-conforming, and it's always gonna be non-conforming because the house is in a setback from the lake. I mean, the encroachment on the road right-of-way and on the property line are kind of secondary to the encroachment on the lake. Part of your old house was, built back in the 70s. That was built, before there were rules. And so that's, for me, that's the biggest problem, is just the sheer size of this building. It's, it's a big house. And, and last time on the essential character part, I voted yes on that, and this time when I was there, I paid special attention to what the neighbors' houses look like, and I don't know that the current construction fits into the neighborhood, I mean, I just don't. I don't know what to tell you on that one, but I just don't think it fits in the neighborhood. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are bigger structures farther down the lake on Hoffman Drive, but right in the immediate neighborhood, 7, 8 houses either direction, there is nothing that big. So I guess that's kind of my observance on this and stuff. And but the big thing for me is the sheer volume of the increase. That's where I have a problem.
May I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
2 things in that. The board member that was here on the original variance and voted no, he was right. He says that this is going to be a big structure. This is going to be a big project. It's going to be big. It's going to be big. Number 1. Number 2, maybe the perspective portion of this here is what John was saying, the footprint. The footprint was there, and build out the garage, build up the bonus room on top, under 25 feet, and tie it back into the house. So although that it's big, it isn't that we were trying to sweep something under the rug or go anywhere. Our thought was always 2 stories and that bonus room above the garage, keeping it under 25 feet and tying it back into the house. Now that wing section on the shed side dormer, our perception was that's where our loft was, and we could live up in that loft and have a bedroom in that loft, and we were just making it more structure-wise for the living area on that upstairs, tying it back into the house. And that was brought up as the too much, and so just to stop there, that's where we're coming from to address that question on being too big and overbuilt.
Okay.
And also, can I add something
Yes,
to
go ahead.
that? If you're looking at where we're moving that back, the 8.5 feet or whatever it is, they did that to square up the garage, because otherwise we would have gone like this, because we had that additional 10 by 14. And right now, where that window is, we only have 8 feet to our doorway. And beyond that, we got, a 3-foot section that is angled down. That storage room is only 52 inches tall. So it's a crawl space is what it is. So it's entirely different, because the house, the loft shifted from going this way across from east to west, we took that whole section off and backed it up, and then have to angle back into the doorway. Right now, our doorway, had you gone up there, you can see the rafter tail. We can only open that doorway one way to get in there. So right now, even with backing that up, we still do have 8 feet to be able to move things into there.
Okay, well, I guess I understand all that, and I guess the other part of the problem I have is that had you gone in, you had the right to tear down that garage and tear down that part of the house and rebuild it on a one-to-one basis if you would have gotten a permit. And I guess either that or you could have, I guess my thinking is that maybe when you applied for the first variance, you didn't ask for what you needed to ask for. And that's, I guess, and that's where the problem is for me, and I don't know how we got there or how you got there.
I think the conceptual vision of, like Amy said, she didn't know that the 10 by 14 addition would include a second story because everything shifted over because of the lot line angle.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, John.
So from the original, we talked about the footprint already approved in the first variance back in a couple years ago. What was the change in square footage from the plan that was drawn up on the approved variance with this updated footprint to what exists today?
Ask me that one more time. What are you
What's the
asking?
difference in the square footage that exists in the home from the originally
From the
approved
original
the approved variance from 23 that was this footprint
Mm-hmm.
to what's there today?
So, let me go back to.
Do you guys know that?
No, we didn't really know how much we were gonna need to connect from the existing
So-
loft that was there.
In the original variance, I just need to get to it
And then, of
here.
course, the basement.
Oops. The original variance was to add 28 by 28, and that was understood to have a bonus room on top.
Toward the road, yep.
Yep.
So-
And then.
Which we did, which has,
Yes.
okay,
And then the 10 by 14 entryway
onto the south part of the house, which was
to
also
the roadside.
to
of
the roadside, yes.
Of the home. So those were the two things, authorized. So from a footprint, I mean, it went out that way. And it was understood that over the new portion of the garage, there was going to be bonus.
So that was there no matter what. So when
Correct.
our chair was
So-
saying, the bonus room, it looks huge, well, that was in the original variance.
That's correct.
Right.
What wasn't was the square footage of the basement underneath, so another 28 by 28.
Okay,
And then the rest of it then would be the dormer then that was on the second level of the.
and that's
There
it.
was always a dormer, but I don't know that they've provided the square footage of what that floor space, that dormer was.
That's air, right? Not floors. Like it's air in a gable, it's not actual floors or walkable space.
So we
Well,
had
I would,
floors
I
up
would
there.
say here that's walkable space.
One at a time.
John, if you look at that would be walkable space, I
Yep.
would argue.
Yes, yep.
And I would say that this is a gain in it's an expanded, it's a higher sidewall, so it's gain in volume for sure. I don't know what the floor space was. Let me get
I've
back
got that,
to
Amy.
that. Give me just 1 second. I don't know.
The old garage was 784.
No, I'm not worried about that.
While she's looking that up, you guys are guttering this, right? Sixth condition.
Give me, can we stop just for a second, because,
Fair enough.
so this, I don't know how much floor space this dormer provided. So there was always a dormer and a second floor, but I don't know what that was.
Right. And so and I think that's where I go back to my original, okay, there was an after-the-fact variance requested, because when we went out there and we're like, well, which part was this?
Right.
We talked about the air where it was gabled on the lakeside, right, because the footprint was the same.
Because it's considered expansion.
Right,
Yep.
and so going up, if there was something where we were going up, also, if you would have approved this again, the after-the-fact variance from the second round to, well, would you have done at that time? Well, of course we would have, because, well, I would have, because the footprint hasn't changed, and you don't gain impervious surface by going up, and if you have lake height restrictions already in place that aren't being violated, that's the part where I'm like, well,
But that's assuming that you're meeting all other setbacks, that you're not 3 feet from the road and you're not 50 feet from the lake. That's when you say a 30-foot height is reasonable.
right,
So then that's where you have to weigh, is expansion 3 feet from the road and 50 feet from the lake still
Right.
reasonable?
and so that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, okay, lake here, road here, what we're
Yep.
talking about is the space here. We already approved these two minus this gable, but the height part of it was going up there anyway. The space we're talking about on the actual home is literally in the middle of all this stuff that already exists and the footprint's already there. So that's the part where
Are you asking me something?
I'm just, as we're going through this application, we're debating impervious surface. It's like, impervious surface isn't a thing because they got both lots. But we're talking about, well, it looks a lot bigger than it was. It's like, not entirely, because it was in the original variance to have that over the garage. Again, gabled on the lake end, not when we talk about what was originally approved.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Amy.
I think really where we're at is we don't have a variance for any of it right now, because that original variance doesn't exist either. It's gone. So really what you're considering is this, because in the original variance, the variance authorized that garage addition and that entryway. And part of your consideration was that they were working with the existing structure and did not identify that any of that was coming down or being replaced. When that whole half of that house came down, that voided that variance. They do not have a variance in any way, shape, or form right now.
Right.
So essentially, what's before you is this variance that's already underway. This project that's already halfway built, and whether or not that is, going to meet the requirements to grant.
Got it.
I hope that
Thanks.
helps to reframe it, really. It's really not about the original variance anymore.
Thanks, Amy. So the way I'm looking at it, John, just my view on this, is that the original garage was supposed to be remodeled into a bedroom and bathroom, I believe. And that turned into a basement, a main floor, and an upstairs. So whatever those dimensions are, it's somewhere north of 1,000 square feet of living space. And so that's the problem here, is that we gained a whole bunch of living space and a whole bunch more use on this lot. That to me is the problem.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I don't like how and why we got here either. And what do we do? I mean, it's ugly all the way around, and we don't want, and we're stuck in the middle here trying to work with this, with the situation. And when John was talking, and I didn't disagree with a lot he was saying there, and I totally agree what George is saying. This is too much, and way too much, and what do you do? Yeah, it could say tear it all down, and yeah, who wants to do that? I mean, it's a really ugly situation here. But one thing, like I stated on the previous variance, and we look at each one individually, what are you gonna do to mitigate? You're doing some things, and John mentioned about impervious surface. It's a little something. And as Amy mentioned, what can you do? Yeah, it's a little something. Is it enough to get you there? I don't know. But one thing that when I first seen it pulled out there, and that dormer, that just stood out. And number 3 is, will the variance maintain the essential character locality? It stands out like a sore thumb there. And when this picture, but part of it is the angle of the picture you drew, and you did a nice job with that. Will that help? Blend in? It will help. I definitely, is it enough to put us over the edge? I don't know. And here What do we do? What do we do in this situation? And here we are. And I mean, how do we, how do we cross this bridge?
Thanks, Marv. Anybody else got anything else? If not, I'll open it up to the public. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Third and final time, any comments from the public? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close the public comment.
So moved.
Motion by John, second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carried. So anything else? Is ready to go to criteria questions?
I would like, before we go into, to Amy, I know there was a few conditions, and we go over them conditions
Yes.
before we do anything more.
Yep, so what I made note of was conditions that there would be follow-through on the installation of the rain garden, the installation of the drain field across the street on the utility lot, that a stormwater plan be submitted and approved by Land Services, reduce the deck according to what is outlined in the application, and remove the patio pavers as outlined within the application. That's what I have. Have I missed anything?
John, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
John, did you have something about rain gutters you said or
He,
something?
well, I'd go with the stormwater
Okay.
management plan, I think. Marv referenced, so should be
Okay.
all right.
So I've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds right.
Yep.
That's it? We'll go to the criteria questions and findings of fact. Number 1, is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and a comprehensive plan? I'll take that one there. Applicants have made progress in the right direction by moving the drain field across the road, installing a rain garden where the old drain field was located, removal of them 2 sheds out front, the 90 square feet of pavers going to their parents' home. I didn't think the removal of the 2 outside walls, which diminishes the interior living space, goes far enough to decrease the overall structure size. The volume of the structure far exceeds what the original variance allowed, even though the footprint remains the same. So I do not believe that this meets the bar of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comp Plan. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Voted
John.
yes to the same applicant, same address, virtually the same application 2 times previous. And for every reason I had talked through earlier in the meeting here about the actual changes in what was originally approved, I would vote yes towards that.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Question 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Clint?
So this is probably a little bit difficult to answer this one. I would say the applicants definitely, they think it's reasonable. If you go along with like John's way of thinking, you would think it's reasonable because the square footage isn't changing from what they proposed originally. I think the determination here, what's reasonable, is it reasonable to have more livable space? I think it's really complex because when we look at changing some of the pitches of the roof and things like that, you would say that that's more livable space. When we look at the lake side of the home with that rafter change and that opening, I don't think it gives you any more livable space. I think over the garage, that was originally what was in the plan, so I would say that's reasonable. The big hang-up is the dormer over the center portion, the old garage. And that one, that to me is one that, when I look at it as reasonable, when I look at it, it's really hard because there was a dormer there. Okay, how much more square footage is up there than what was originally? Nobody really knows. It's a real hard one. Is it 20 square feet more? Is it 100 square feet more? That's where You know, if it's 300 square feet more, then I'd probably say it's not reasonable. So that's a hard one for me. That's where the hangup is for me, okay? And now we could talk about the basement. Is that reasonable? Totally understand why it was put in because of the structural soundness and all them things. That don't really mean that it needed to be a basement. It could have got backfilled and been footings with a smaller portion. But I could see where the basement got kind of out of hand. So when I look at this whole thing, it's, you know, we all agree it's real complex. So when I look at the differences in, other than the aesthetics, when we look at the livable space and what was presented, what actually happened, I think it's border. For me, it's reasonable, but it's border because what the hard part is, we don't actually know what the difference is in that living space that kind of where it ties into the house with that dormer and that garage part. So I would probably lean towards yes on number 2 by a little bit.
Anybody else? Thanks, Clint. I guess I do have one comment on, I guess, you know, the whole thing is, as far as being reasonable, you know, we had a big gain in living space. It's a big house on a small lot. And I guess I just don't think it's a very reasonable request on the whole project. I mean, I thought that what was borderline reasonable was the original variance, which is now null and void. I thought that would probably fly with me. But what's here today, I don't know if I can vote yes on it. Anybody else? Question 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? John.
As we are not at the, or near, I think we're 7 feet off of what is technically allowed on any shoreland at 30 feet. Yeah, all new construction stands out at the moment. As that gets finished off and you start to get the things growing right back around it, it'll be just fine. I think it fits in with the houses. There's other houses right down the road that have as much surface area with garage and actual house showing as this house does. I think it fits in just fine with the actual character.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Marv, go ahead.
as I mentioned earlier, I believe before, the way it is, it stands out quite a bit, the dormer especially. And I agree with John's statement. Once you finish it off, you end up putting the siding, dressing it up. It helps blend it in. It won't stand out so much as, the covering now, the white covering there. Anyhow, but cutting down and removing them sidewalls helps blend it in. Is it enough? I don't know, but it helps me, so it will blend in better.
Thanks, Marv. I guess I'll add to a little bit. I guess, I did pay special attention to that when we were out there last time, and it is a big house. Does it meet the essential character of the locality? I'm not sure, but I guess when I looked at it that day, I thought that it does stand out, but like Marv pointed out, and John also pointed out, it doesn't have siding on it either, it's white. So that's where I'm at on that one. Number 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Marv.
Well, I'll go back to the original ask and practical difficulty, and Brad and Joyce took me down to the basement and showed me the crawl space and how tight it was to get down there. And it was not safe at all doing some of this. So they had to do something. But as pointed out earlier, did it need to get this extreme? Absolutely not. And so what do? Is that basement going to be utilized for something? Probably not, because there's no, doors to go to it from the outside. There's no windows, but it would be storage. Did it need to get this? No. But the practical difficulty was still access to that basin in a safe manner. And yeah, they accomplished it by what they did here now.
Anybody else? I guess I'll make a comment on the practical difficulty part. I guess, I know that was used for a practical difficulty, and if you look up what the definition of a practical difficulty is, the practical difficulty has to do with something that is unique about the lot, not the house, the lot. And, I guess if there was something unique about this lot, it would be that it's a small, non-conforming lot. And to me, that would make more sense as a practical difficulty than steps down to a basement, because I think I stated earlier, there were a whole bunch of ways where you could address steps down into your basement. I just can't see where that would be a practical difficulty.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, John.
you also had the township in here trying to figure out why they put the road where they put the road in regards to the build and all the other houses along the way too.
Thanks, John. Anything else? Question 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? I'll take that one. I guess I fully understand the need for footings, mold removal, safe entrance to the utility room to make the structure sound and safe. A permit to replace what was there would eliminate us addressing this here tonight. The need for a variance was created by personal want. The applicant went beyond what the initial variance allowed. And that's where I'm at on this one. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, just in support of the way I am going to vote on this, again, I go back to that road right away and where it was and how it was and how the lots were split. Had nothing to do with them purchasing this or the previous people purchasing it. It was how it was set up in the first place.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Question 6. Does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint.
Yes, like I said earlier, it's hard to, some of this stuff is hard to determine what actually was gained as far as usable space. So that's part of it. When we look at access to the basement or how the basement arrived at how big it is, I don't think that's just how it worked out with the footings and stuff. I commented earlier, maybe it could have just been backfilled, but whatever. But when we look at it, I don't think any of this was done because of economics. Just misunderstanding maybe of the different definitions of expansion maybe, John talked square footage wise, that's his opinion on actual square footage that's made is just because of the footprint. The county ordinance states differently. Their position on it is cubic feet, not square feet. Basically, if you understand that, it's just expansion is still because it went up. The footprint is no big. But I'd still say yes to question 6 because I think with the practical difficulty, the whole problem here, it was nothing really about economics. It was everything else. Not saying it's right or wrong. But that's how I'd answer question 6.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Marv.
So also in economic considerations, we could use that tearing this whole thing down and rebuilding and that could be considered economic. But they're doing things to mitigate, and it's going to be at a cost. And to remodel, it's going to be at a cost. And they're willing to do this, and they're working with land services and saying, what can we do to help mitigate what mistakes or what we did here? So it's much more than just economics. And that's where I said, we've got it. We all understand mistakes were made. Communication lines weren't what they should be, and nobody else gets that point. But what they're doing is trying to mend these here and do the best in what they have. So with that being said, their willingness to do that is much more just than economic considerations.
Thanks, Marv. Anything else? We'll go to the vote. Question number 1. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? I myself, George, is no. Clint?
I'm gonna have to say no.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
I'm going to say yes.
Question number 2. Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
I'm no. I, George, is no. Question 3. Will the issuance of a variance maintain the essential character of the locality? John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
I myself, George, is no. Clint?
Yes.
Question 4. Is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Marv?
Yes.
I myself, George, is no. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Question 5. Is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Myself, George, is no. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Question 6. Does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Myself, George, is yes. So we have 5 of the 6 answered in the affirmative. We have 1 with a tie.
Do you want to do your after-the-fact criteria?
Should I ask the board?
Yep, that's up to them.
So, board members, looks like the application is on the nexus of being approved. Do we want to do the finding of fact and decision after fact additional considerations?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
You had said it's on the verge of getting approved. We have a tie vote on one of them.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Yep, I'm aware of that.
okay.
Yep.
So I'd say we should do the after-the-fact criteria questions, just maybe a work through to help out with, because this is so tough, complicated.
I agree with that.
Okay, Amy, I'm in new ground here, so we just go through the questions?
And these are a weighing and balancing, and so they're for discussion purposes, and that is essentially part of the information you'll use then at the end of that for your vote.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question and we'll put together some answers. So why did the applicant fail to obtain a variance or comply with the applicable requirements before commencing work? Did the applicant act in good faith? Why or why not? I'm going to open it up.
Mr. Chair,
John?
I mean, there was one very evident scenario here where when Darren did go out to look at the deck permit and he said, "What's going on here? You need to stop construction," and I think everything was halted. I don't know if anything's been done since then even. So, the good faith, is definitely there, certainly.
Thanks,
Chair?
John.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd say when we're looking through, why didn't the applicant fail to comply with applicable requirements? I think a lot of it is probably on the applicant's interpretation of what expansion is, because I think that's what's kind of holding us up and holding us back in this whole thing the whole time. Just what the definition of expansion is. Changing roof lines, things like that, what they thought they were, or what they knew that they were already approved for, and then thinking that this would tie into it, and it didn't, and maybe a little communication back and forth. Was it good faith? I do think it was good faith. I think a lot of it just comes down to what understanding definitions of actual what the ordinance is and things like that.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Marv.
I believe also when they were doing this work, as any of us that have been into any remodeling, it always seems you run into oh, we gotta change this, we gotta change that. And I believe the contractor persuaded him to do some things. And I hope and I believe that this new training and licensing for the contractors doing work in Morrison County will help eliminate a good share of them. I believe that's how they also got here. And he said the lack of communication between land services and them also.
Thanks, Marv. I guess the comment I'll make, the applicant did obtain a variance, however, he did not comply with what the variance set forth. And he could have gotten a permit to rebuild what he had he found those problems. He could have rebuilt it one for one. So I guess that's where I'm at on it. That's my comment.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I would push back on that just a smidge, because earlier in this whole thing, I asked, what was the change in square footage? I don't have an answer from anybody, either side at this point. That includes the applicants, and it includes the county.
You're talking livable square footage, I assume.
Correct.
Well, livable square footage would be 2 levels above where the old garage stood.
What's the number?
The old garage. What was the size?
Say it. What's the number? What's the difference?
Do we know that, Amy? What the old garage dimensions were?
I believe in a different packet, I had that because it was permitted. And I think I give you the history of
Right.
the size of that garage. And I'm just gonna remind you, we've got 9 more questions
Yep.
to get through.
I want to stay all night. Okay, moving on. Did the applicant attempt to comply with the law by obtaining the proper permits? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I believe they went and got their building permits. They got the permits for the deck, and when the deck permit, when Darren came out there, and then all of a sudden that's what triggered this stop. So I believe they were going through the permitting process in a proper way.
That's good. Number 3, did the applicant obtain a permit from another entity that violated the law? Provide explanation below, and I guess I'll answer that one is no. I don't know of anybody else that would give a permit in Morrison County. Number 4, did the applicant make a substantial investment in the property?
Mr.
That's
Chair,
a-
that's
That's a
obvious.
no-brainer, yeah. The applicant did make substantial investment in the property.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Also, if they do this here, they're going to make a substantial amount to change this here also.
Yep.
Make modifications.
Very good, Mark, thank you. Number 4, did the applicant make a substantial investment in, no, wrong one, right? 5. Did the applicant complete the repairs, construction before the applicant was informed of the impropriety? Please provide details below. Well, the applicant stopped work on the project prior to or after he was informed that he was now without a variance, so he did stop work. Any other notes on that? Number 6, is the nature of the property residential, recreational, and not commercial? Please provide details. The nature of the property is residential, and it's lakeshore. Anybody else? Number 7, are there similar structures on the lake? Provide details below if applicable. Well, I guess myself, along that stretch of road, there's nothing that's comparable to that. There's a new house, and there's some other structures, but most of them are a story to a story and a half tall.
Mr. Chair, in that neighborhood, I agree with that. But on that lake, if you would take structures on the whole lake, we do have a fair amount of structures that are non-conforming. To this level, I don't know that.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, yeah, on the lake, yes, there are definitely structures similar to that house.
Yep, I would agree with that. Would the minimum benefits to the county appear to be far outweighed by the detriment the applicant would suffer if forced to remove the structure? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I would actually look to Miss Amy for this one and just say, what would be the detriment to the county or advantage if you were, I mean, from your perspective, like what, you can answer the applicant one, obviously, but like, what does the county gain or not gain by approving or not approving this?
Generally, I mean, when it comes to we would look at the impact to the resource that may or may not be mitigated. And then also overstep of a granted variance and the impact that may have to the general public and the trust, I guess, in the process.
Makes sense.
And I guess I would add to that is that, I guess the bad part about this is that somebody else could come and say to us, well, we let them off the hook. And I guess that's the problem that I have with it. We let them off the hook, so that's where I'm at on that one.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I agree with that totally. And that, I think we've seen variances that we approved in the past, and all of a sudden, then we were getting flooded with the same variances like that. But we are supposed to look at each one individually, and that's the way we have to address this.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, every after the fact variance is, you either let them off the hook or you don't. That's not, I mean, that's what this whole thing exists for.
Well, okay, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. In light of all the above factors, would denying a variance serve the interest of justice? Why or why not? I guess my opinion, I don't know about justice, but it would, I guess it draws a line in the sand, what we're gonna allow and not allow. And that's where I would come from on this one. I don't know if it's about justice. It's about what are you going to allow? Are we going to allow the next guy down the lake to do the same thing?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I agree with you in what they brought forward. I don't necessarily agree how I voted on some of it, because this whole thing is teetering on the line which way it can go. And I wish they would have brought something more palatable forward. And I know it's at a cost, but we could be really nasty and saying, deny it across and make them tear everything down. But, the part that I look at, they came to Land Services and they were doing some things. Could have they done more? Absolutely. Is this enough? I don't know. We're in that line, and I agree with you with that line.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Mr. Chair, what Amy explained on number 8 about regarding the county and what this does from a decision-making perspective, or how it creates behaviors is what happens, because they see somebody else do it. If somebody down the lake did the same thing, I think at this point now, and especially with this group of people, being able to look at that individually, I don't know that we would answer yes to all 7 of the first page questions to that person down the lake that might do the same thing, whereas 7.5 of the 8 here could be looked at in more of the positive. But I guess when you're talking about the interests of justice, with this board specifically, I guess it's who's justice, right?
Mr. Chair?
Thanks, John. Go ahead, Clint.
So I don't know if I want to answer 8 and then this very last thing. I don't know if it's allowed. Amy, can I talk about why I voted the way I did on question 1 in this part?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the reason why I voted no for question 1 was, and I voted yes and everything else, but when I look at the ordinance, I think the biggest misunderstanding or biggest problem here is working on the definition of expansion, okay, when we look at the ordinance. And, you know, I'm on that sometimes, is, the square footage didn't change as far as the footprint. But then we're looking at, available overall, livable space, okay? And what's so difficult about that one is like, there's a gray area on some of this on what actually was added on livable space, okay? Well, then we also tie into aesthetic part of it. George mentioned a little bit, it just looks so big, okay? Part of that is because it's so close to the road, which we all agree, that's addressed, that's somewhat taken care of, I think, in all of our minds on how they're doing the road thing. So that's why I voted no on question 1, because in the ordinance, it's basically just the understanding of, the square footage, where it is total use. That adds on, okay, so here when we look at it, it's just these two, okay? The basement's not gonna get used probably for other than storage. Some of this livable space isn't gonna get used, but it goes with the land. Eventually, somebody else can own it. It could get packed to the hilts with people living in there. Then the use of the lake is even used more, okay? Now, they're trying to mitigate some of these things by putting in rock gardens, taking away impervious surface, trying to do whatever they can. And granted, I don't think anybody here wants them to tear everything down. What they're trying to do is make it less intrusive. I don't know if it's enough or not. But then when I look at question 8, that's another tough one because they are trying to not impact the resource as much by changing some of these things. And it just depends on how you look at it, what lens you look at it. Is it more detrimental to the applicant or to the county? It's really tough, you know. And then you look at the last here, is it's, you know, serving justice. We weigh all that, you know, so I think, you know, even though I voted no on question 1, I think I would, going through this whole thing, understanding the whole complex part of it, I would probably vote yes on question 8, but then that contradicts question 1, I believe. And so I don't know if I explained it enough, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking, or why I voted no on question 1, and then why I would vote on question 8. I would vote yes.
Anybody else? So Amy, so now we go down to the decision, is that my understanding here?
Yes, so Mr. Chair, now you essentially are going to ask the question, applying the above criteria, has the applicant made a showing of practical difficulty? You're going to poll each one of them.
Okay,
And then you would be asking for that motion.
okay. So then does,
It's all one.
That- oh, so
They're
this-
not
this-
separate.
this takes care of this, okay.
You've essentially decided to apply that, so you're only voting once. And
Okay.
you're looking at all of it now when you do that.
okay. So we're gonna vote yes or no on applying the above criteria. Has the applicant made a showing of practical difficulty? Marv?
I believe they have, yes.
John?
Yes.
Myself, George, is no. Clint?
I would say yes.
So with that, it looks like the variance,
Nope, now you're gonna ask for a motion.
I'm going to ask for a motion. A motion to approve the variance.
So moved.
Motion by John, second.
I'll second
Do
that.
we
Second.
have any conditions?
With all the conditions that were presented earlier.
Okay, motion by John, second by Marv, with the conditions to approve the variance. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. John?
Aye.
Marv?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Aye, myself, George, is no. So based on that, the variance has been approved
With the conditions.
with the conditions.
All right.
Yes, we got her.
So just get back with Darren on the next steps, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please work with land services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes,
guess
sir.
the other thing too is if, there's been a lot of this stuff come up about neighbors doing this, neighbors doing that. I would
Yes.
highly suggest and ambassador your way through your neighbors to say maybe check with land services before any of us get put in any other situations.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good point, John.
Yeah.
Good point.
We don't like being stuck up here
No.
either, Des.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I spent a few sleepless nights on this one.
All right,
Months.
you got this.
Okay, we got some other items here yet this evening. Approval of the past meeting minutes. Everybody have a chance to look at them? Entertain a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the January 20th, 2026 minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion by Quint, second by Marv. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. John?
Aye.
Marv?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Aye, myself, George, is aye. We got old business, Amy?
I don't have any old business, Mr. Chair.
No old business. Any new business, Amy?
Just to let you know, the March 3rd meeting, we do not have any Board of Adjustment items, so there will not be a viewing that prior Friday on the, 27th
Just planning.
of February. So no viewing.
Just planning.
Yeah, and just planning commission meeting.
Okay.
So that's all I've got, I think, Mr. Chair.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by John, second.
Second.
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.